Hi, it's Akemi, and this is Akemi Kai Inner Beauty. And I love to talk about law of assumption and inner work. And I wanted to answer a question that may be important to you, which is, what is enlightenment? When you talk about enlightenment, you hear that word thrown around. You might think about ascended masters like Jesus or Buddha or Tibetan monks, the Dalai Lama, maybe some Hindu gurus. I want to talk about enlightenment a little bit because I think that it's our idea of what enlightenment is has become an obstacle to most of us achieving it. So what do I mean by that? By enlightenment never really being talked about or defined by anyone who has experienced it and degrees of it, it's created this mystique around it, and it's caused us to put it on this very high pedestal. That means if you achieve that, you've achieved some kind of like godlike status or ascended master status. Like there's Jesus or Buddha, and then there's this huge gap, and then there's humanity. And it's almost offensive to hear someone say that they've had some kind of an enlightenment experience, because you will just scoff at them like, who do you think you are? You have such a big ego, like you're clearly delusional and think highly of yourself and you don't know what you're talking about. You couldn't have possibly had an enlightenment experience, this kind of reaction, right? And that's really just coming from our general misunderstanding and lack of discussion about what enlightenment is, and us pedestalizing it. Like at the same time not knowing what it is, and also putting it on a pedestal that's so unachievable. There's an idea built in that it's unachievable by any regular human now, right? You have to be a god from 2,000 years ago to have experienced that. Or you have to be the Dalai Lama, right? You have to be like god level status to be able to talk about enlightenment or say that you've had any kind of experience of it, right? And I want to suggest some things to think about. And one is that that enlightenment isn't actually what most people think it is. That it's not that. It's not some high peak experience at God level that is unattainable by regular people who live today in regular jobs, in regular lives. It's not that. I want to put that out there, that it's not that. And I want to put it out there that it isn't one thing. It's not like here's humanity and the human experience, and then here's enlightenment and the God experience, and they can never connect. Can you see it? Can you see how our idea of what enlightenment is? It's affecting our ability. It's affecting us. I'm going to put it out there. We're holding an assumption that we can't experience it and that it's out of reach for us. It's impossible, and don't even think about it. And if anybody does talk about it, they're delusional. They haven't really experienced it. They're deluding themselves and they're crazy. Okay? Do you see it? I just want to put out some things to think about. You don't have to listen to anything I say. You can just scroll. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to watch the content on this channel. It's really just me talking about my experiences in my lifetime, and if it's something that resonates with somebody at a certain point along their own personal journey, it may be encouraging and helpful at some point. Okay, so take what resonates, and if it doesn't resonate, then you don't need to listen to me. So when I was I don't know why, but when I was young in this lifetime, I was really, really interested, fascinated by this idea of attaining enlightenment, achieving enlightenment, experiencing enlightenment in this lifetime. Like it was was just like an obsession for me. It was like the only thing that I wanted. And I wanted to I was willing to sacrifice anything in my life to get as far as I could on that path. Like that was what I wanted to use this lifetime for, and I was willing to forego any experience that got in the way. Relationships with people, getting married, having children, living a conventional life. I was willing to do anything. I was willing to go into the monastery, and I attempted to at one point. And I also spent 27 years pursuing that full on, like constantly, with all my resources and all my time and all my energy. And so I want to share what I believe enlightenment is now, having made that my goal for my most great portion of my life. And it's this. What enlightenment is a human being, okay? Somebody born as a consciousness in a human vessel, body, animal body, just like me, just like you, okay? Opening up all the inherent capacities present in our body to be more and more and more a multidimensional being that has access to different dimensions of reality. And at first breaking through to a new dimension, breaking through access to a new dimension, and then learning how to function and integrate and work with that dimension and hold that and stabilize that and steady that, and then continuing to grow. And that is an unfolding process that has no upper limit. Okay, so there are levels of enlightenment. There is an unlimited ceiling in terms of how many dimensions are available to you to access and connect with and then integrate. And so people that you see alive right now can exhibit capacities on different degrees of that experience. And there is a lower limit where people haven't had any experience at all of breaking through to another dimension of their beingness. Okay, so that there is definitely like a lower limit where somebody is just like, I haven't had any experience outside of the very basic 3D like environment. Maybe don't have even a lot of awareness or access to the dimensions that we already talk about every day in daily life, like the fact that we have, a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, a spiritual body, an astral body, right? I mean, there can be people that are closed off in different ways to just that basic, very, like, kind of, I don't want to call things lower level, because in our language we've assigned so much value and judgment to some of these words like lower, higher. What I'm putting out there is a very different idea about what enlightenment is, that it is not at all a single peak experience that is God level, that is completely separate from human experience and unachievable by humans. That itself right there, me saying that, could be so offensive to people. If you have religious programming, that could be like blasphemy level statement for me to say that. But I want to put it out there that these beings that we have attempted to record in our history, and now so many thousands of years have gone by since these beings, Jesus and Buddha, were here, that our religiosity around them has grown to such an extent that it's really difficult to connect that back to the original person at this point. Like, we've created entire massive human religions around the texts or the stories of these people that have become so distorted that it's really difficult now to connect that back to those people and be certain that anybody knows what those people were like. According to how we've grown as a species, humanity has grown and evolved mentally and emotionally, and in our understanding of the world and reality. Our perception at this point as a human culture of those people, were they to be present now, may be very, very different than what was recorded by people 2,000 years ago, right? That just the whole perception needs to be called into question. And we've also done this thing where we've created human religion, which is this very severe, austere, male, like male only concept of enlightenment. Like, you must be a man like the Dalai Lama to be able to step out in society and say that you've experienced enlightenment. Like, there's no women that are on that level right now in our society, right? Like, it's got to be a man, and he's got to be in one of the world's major religions, and he's got to be a very serious, austere kind of person who can hold the weight of all the projection that humanity puts on religious figures right now. Okay, I just want to sweep all that away and say enlightenment actually has nothing to do with any of that. I want to put it out there. That even our language that we use to discuss concepts in Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, our language has become so solidified and codified. There's all these spiritual buzzwords, and people think they know what that means. And they've begun to only talk about enlightenment in terms of those kinds of concepts that have become crystallized and solidified in human consciousness as to what they mean. There is a massive problem with all of it. It needs to be swept away. Why? Because us doing this to enlightenment has made it impossible for us to achieve it. And it's made it impossible for us to just put a foot on the journey and start doing the work. And it's made us intolerant of listening to anyone who's done any work and had any of the different levels of experience of it. Because we only accept that there's only one peak God level experience of it. But actually, nobody jumped from here to there. Everybody went. It's you know that image in Buddhism of the lotus unfolding or a flower unfolding. It's like all those petals, like the way that nature fractals outwards, like that's growth, right? Enlightenment is a growth process. It's a fractaling growth process that has no upper limit because the force in nature, in creation itself, moves that way. It keeps pushing forward and pushing through and opening up to more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Right? It's a growth process. It's an evolutionary process. And what is it? It's breaking through petal by petal by petal by petal from the mental concepts and constructs that we have taken on that are limiting us. They're limiting our reality because there are assumptions. There are assumptions about who we are and what's possible for us and what enlightenment is and what's possible for us. And we have actually stagnated and we're refusing to do the work of the process of enlightenment because we've pedestalized it and made it a thing that is only a peak experience at a God level. It's not. It's not. And ancient cultures had practices that humans went through on a process to do this work, right? Like spiraling upwards through this process. And what is the process? It's not abstract, guys. A thing we do as humans is we make things abstract and therefore they become unreachable. We make them abstract and they become unrelatable. We abstract our concepts and then they become unachievable. This is why on this channel I try to ground everything back down. Like, what does it mean to love yourself? What does that mean if somebody says, just love yourself? What does it mean to love yourself? I have a video on it. What does it mean to become enlightened? It's not an end point, guys. It's not an end game. It's not a one-shot deal. It's not a one-level experience. It's an unfolding and it's a process, and it's each breaking through is a painful process, just like a flower would go through to put out a new leaf, to put out a new petal, to open a new petal, to open more and more and more. Each bit of movement along that growth process where the life force of the creator source is actually moving through you unobstructed, opening you up to different dimensions of this reality that all have different kind of, for lack of a better word, laws or rules of how things operate on those levels. Every time you break through a new level, you have to adjust your energy field to be able to handle the energy of that level and the information that's coming through your senses. Now it's different, and you have to learn how to work with it and handle it and not get swept away by it. And it's a process, and then you have to integrate that, and it takes time. And it doesn't stop there. There's always another level. There's always another level. There's always another level. And if you just take on what I'm saying and just be willing to consider it, and then take that perspective and start looking at some of the spiritual people that you respect in the world right now, ask yourself if that appears to be true when you look at them. Can you even observe in the time that you've been following them, their growth process and how their energy has changed and their teachings have changed and the way they speak has changed? Have you not observed that they themselves have even changed within their lifetime here? And the Tibetan Buddhists they have a very advanced view on reality as being multidimensional and us incarnating over and over into this matrix. And that's why they track the Rinpoche's incarnations across lifetimes, so that every bit of work that they're doing in one lifetime doesn't get lost. Their friends can find them and pick up again where they left off and keep going. They've created a system to be able to keep themselves moving forward without losing so much that we lose through our death process and reincarnation process, losing our memory, losing track of time, wasting a lot of time, right? Getting to be, having to get to be 30 years old before you have your spiritual centers kind of open up, and then you're like, oh yeah, what am I supposed to be doing here? And you just wasted 32 years, right? They're trying to minimize that through their process. But don't get hung up on the language that's being used and the terminology that's being used, and even how those things are translated into English, and what English phrases are chosen and what those mean, and how they become solidified. Already, even since the 60s and 70s, when Westerners started going to the East to some cultures and trying to bring that information and trying to translate, well, even since then, the concepts of being solidified, and Buddhism has become this kind of stoic, crystallized, boring as hell practice that has no life in it. It's I'm sorry, I'm going to say it because I went through Buddhism, and there is a dusty, old, boring as hell component to how humans have made that. But if you look at someone alive right now who is more on the level of what Jesus would have been, like Sadhguru, okay? Watch him a little bit, just as an example. You don't have to deify him, right? Just look at him as an example of somebody walking among us who's had, he's got some experiences in this lifetime where he's, channeling a ton of energy and working on a mission on a very large scale and able to amass a lot of people around him and have a lot of impact in the world and stuff like that, on the level of a person like Jesus would have been when he was here, okay? Something sort of comparable. I'm not saying it's the same, right? You've got all the miracles that Jesus was doing. But again, that was being recorded. Sorry, I get so croaky when I talk too much. I've been making a lot of content over the last few days. I feel like I've been getting, waking up in the morning and getting kind of this pressure to talk about certain topics. And so I'm doing my best to make a lot of content while that's coming through. But at the same time, sometimes my body gets tired or my throat gets scratchy trying to keep up. I need to rest, too. What I'm saying is, I'm just putting some ideas out there for you. Because I think there will be a lot of people who, if they come to this channel and they listen to my story or they hear me talk, they're just going to write me off and say, they'll scoff, right? They'll be like, who does she think she is? That, whatever, little young white girl can't possibly have had any experience of enlightenment. Oh my God, who does she think she is speaking that way? That's fine. It's okay. You can scroll. But I want to put it out there. If you're willing to just consider some of the things I'm sharing, it will open your mind and your willingness of your heart open more to look around you in the world and to start being more receptive to the stories that other people are sharing that you can't maybe relate to. So you're writing them off because you think they're crazy or they're lying or they're delusional. But actually, maybe they've had some experiences that you haven't had. And they're trying really hard to translate that into language and you're just really closed off to it. And it's preventing you from even stepping on that path yourself, where you could go on your own journey and open up and have that version of those experiences for yourself. And then it would be very relatable. What I'm saying is these ideas about enlightenment being something out there that is so high level that you can't possibly even begin to relate to it, and that this is even more dangerous of an idea, that it's blasphemous or offensive or horrifying, appalling to even consider, that's blocking you from experiencing it and doing your work. That's blocking you. I also want to suggest that, the recent, there are a lot of scandals that also happen in that realm, right? Like we have people pop up that become these, extreme celebrities in the spiritual field, right? And then sometimes there's these unbelievable scandals that happen, right? That tear down their image and things like that. Because we pedestalize enlightenment and we pedestalize the idea that if a human is displaying the kind of behavior and magnetism that we associate with these on the brink of godlike states where they're not like the regular humanity, we assume, we project a whole bunch of morality onto them and stuff. And then when they do something, usually sexual, right? When they do something, they have an affair, or they sleep with their students, if they're a yoga master, some of this stuff happens, right? I'm thinking of all those monks in Thailand recently that got busted for having sex with prostitutes and doing drugs and stuff like that. Then we have all these problems like this, right? And I'm not saying that those monks were enlightened. On the contrary, what I'm saying is that we don't really understand what enlightenment is, or that it's a process that humans can go through that has different stages and levels. And as humans, we love to create religion. Religion is taking abstract, mysterious, spiritual things that are really like a growth energy and trying to crystallize them into a concept that we can label and understand what that means and then build bricks. Religion becomes brick buildings out of something that is actually a force in reality coming through from creation itself. That's an evolutionary force opening us up to other dimensions that are available in this reality that can be accessible through the body that we already inhabit. Okay? There's some diagrams online that show this circle and then these circles outward, concentric circles, right? And that the energy body itself that you see in the yoga diagrams or the Buddhist diagrams, or, you can see Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, they've mapped these energetic tunnels and pathways and energy centers and things that are running on a different dimension than our physical body. They're running in an energetic dimension. So when you go to get acupuncture, or you get Reiki or something, you're actually tapping into a different dimension. It's a different dimension that is part of your being, right? For us to assume that every monk wearing a monk costume has achieved any level of enlightenment at all is a mistake. Because there are people who go and sit in meditation for freaking years or a lifetime and do not achieve higher states of dimensionality. It's not guaranteed that anybody that's wearing a robe is actually doing their work. And it's also not true. It's a false assumption that somebody wearing jeans and a t-shirt hasn't been doing their work and hasn't achieved higher levels of beingness than the guy over there in the robe in Thailand who's doing drugs and having sex with prostitutes. Do you know what I'm saying? We need to break up some of our assumptions around enlightenment and around our examples of what an enlightened being looks like and what that means, and stop these babyish religious ideas that Jesus and Buddha are gods living in a fluffy cloud realm that are so different from us, and we gotta pray to them, and we're like these little humans and they're these gods up there, and like, you know, like we are creating toddler religion. And we're also creating a ton of delusion within religion that is delusional. Like constantly fighting spiritual warfare all day long against demons that are attacking us 24 hours a day. Why would your God put you in a situation where you are under attack 24 hours a day by beings that you can't perceive and ask you to fight that battle all day long for him? What kind of an existence is that? It doesn't make sense to me that I would do that to a human child. So why would a God that has a more wise, emotionally mature, bigger perspective than me do something like that to a child? Put them in a room filled with demonic entities attacking them 24 hours a day to take their soul away, and I give them no ability to perceive that realm or see those things, and they can't live their material life. They just have to fight those things 24 hours a day. I'm challenging fundamentalist Christian craziness right now that is like sweeping the Western world, like unbelievable delusion created, like unbelievable distortion of extracted from stories in the Bible that we can't even verify or understand or trust that they were translated properly. Do some research on who King James was, who translated those texts. Do some research on that dude. He was a guy who had his own sister assassinated so he could steal the throne. Stop putting these people on a pedestal and creating these ridiculous monstrosities of thoughts that get crystallized into this whole, there are freaking thought viruses in our brains that need to be cleared. Like, humanity is mentally ill right now. I am not kidding you. And so what? There's a famous quote, I can't remember who the person is, I'll have to dig it out, that says that when people have bought into so much ridiculous nonsense for so long, it becomes the truth. And when somebody comes along speaking the truth, they look like the crazy person. That's what state we're in right now on this planet. The lack of clear thinking is unbelievable. And it's not so simple as just throwing it all out the window and being a scientist who only believes in measuring what you can perceive through the senses. Because even science is telling us that we're not perceiving our reality correctly. Even science is beginning to measure and understand that there's way more going on here than what we've been believing about the nature of our reality and the nature of ourselves as beings and the nature of our movement in it. Right? What are all these experiments being done about how something behaves when it's put in a box and it's observed or not observed? Is it a particle? Is it a wave being put through that slit? This crazy stuff that's being done in science that is blowing people's minds, and regular society hasn't caught up to that. Even socially acceptable science hasn't caught up to science. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that means to go throw science out the window. There is a process within us that's deeply personal, that involves us going deeply within and connecting to the source inside ourselves and allowing that to flow through and evolve us, and a willingness to let go of crystallized concepts and ideas in our minds, and to stop pedestalizing people. And don't pedestalize Buddhists either. I'm a Buddhist. Don't pedestalize Buddhist leaders. Tibetan Buddhism is filled with a whole bunch of folk magic. There's a whole bunch of sorcery, old magic that was being done on this planet. There's a whole bunch of that wrapped all into it. Binding spirits. Making them, masters at a certain level, binding spirits and putting them in jars and making them do your bidding. This is old magic being done on this planet, okay? The religions of the world right now are just off base. And yes, there's truth within them. So you can choose which ones you resonate towards and find the practices in there that are going to help you with your growth process, okay? But be discerning and don't put people on pedestals. Do not put spiritually advanced people that you see on pedestals, because they're human and you are capable of achieving the levels that you see them exhibiting if you do your work, your inner work. And they're not gods. We've got to stop this idea. We've got an idea of gods. We love to project our power outward and put it on other people and then worship them. It is a very weird thing that we do as humans, that we love to give our power away and then worship somebody and ask them to give us boons. It's weird. You have the capacity to grant your own boons. You have the capacity to transform your reality. You have been given direct access to the source. You are not separate from it ever. Not a moment of your life are you ever separate from source. It's animating you. What you need is discernment and a willingness to go inward and face whatever's coming up for you and work your way through it, like sorting pebbles in a stream. It's not glamorous work. It's not fast. It's one pebble at a time, picking it up and holding it and feeling its texture and seeing what that emotion is and what do I do with this one? And as you clear the things away, you will open up to higher dimensions of beingness and you will realize more aspects of yourself. And you are going to start getting perceptions and information flooding into you that you just didn't have access before. And then you'll realize that the people you've been listening to that you thought were crazy weren't crazy at all. They weren't crazy. They were just describing something you hadn't opened to yet. Yet is the key word. Just do your work. And one of the pitfalls on the path is pedestalizing people and thinking that enlightenment is a God realm thing. You have to be God to be born into a human body. That's bullshit. And the belief that's deeply anchored into you that it's blasphemy to challenge that is blocking you. Somebody put that in you to disempower you as a human being. Because imagine what this place could be like if everybody realized that they can do the miracles Jesus was doing. If they didn't think that was blasphemous at all. If they just believed that that was just accessing, tapping into higher amounts and larger amounts of energy from the source itself flowing through you to be able to do that stuff without an ego involved, making it all about you. That's what Jesus was doing, right? Like Reiki on a higher scale, like channeling. He was channeling large amounts of energy and just commanding reality, and it was reorganizing itself around him. The problem is we're getting hung up on all this language like he was the Son of God. Oh my God, the way humans bicker and fight about every word in the Bible and stuff like that is such a problem. The Bible should just be thrown out, I swear to God. We need to just realize there is a very powerful force running through each one of us equally, and it's not blasphemous to tap into it, and it's not blasphemous to allow ourselves to be opened by it. And if you still think it's blasphemous, then that's a block in you that's preventing you from growing into your capacity as a human being. And I would argue that some of the religions on this planet have blocked humans on purpose to keep them disempowered and keep them in this crappy slave society working frickin' 60-hour weeks to earn money to be able, like, wasting their lives away. What kind of lives do we have on this planet? It's definitely a slave planet. There is definitely like a nasty component of slavery entrapping our human lifetimes here. Like, people are not free to even live and explore the world and enjoy their lifetimes and be with the people they love. This whole business of working for a living and working until you hit retirement, and then you have a little bit of freedom right when your health is failing and you die. Like, what? I don't claim to know who's enslaving humanity. I don't claim to know who is invested in planting thoughts in humans that scare us so badly that we think it's blasphemous to imagine that we could go through any kind of a process that we could possibly be as powerful as Jesus or Buddha was. I'm arguing that they weren't powerful at all. They came here to show us, like, you're trapped, you're not living your actual reality, like, you're not actually living your capacities. You're cut off from your, even the way that you were created by the God source. You're not experiencing it. Look what you're capable of. If you search yourself, you'll find there's a program running that's been created by religion that's like, that's blasphemy. There's God and there's me. I can't possibly know the workings of God. Right? Okay, it's just stuff to chew on, right? I'm not trying to blow your mind. I'm not trying to destabilize you or anything. I'm just trying to give you some permission, maybe, to think for yourself and to think about certain things inside yourself that you've been forbidden to think about or question. You've been forbidden to question those things with a program running of fear that's been implanted in you through religion, and everybody's got it running. So it can be really scary to think that we are capable of changing water into wine, or touching somebody and taking their cancer away. Excuse me. Like, we just have bought into a belief that we're so powerless and disempowered, and we're not willing to even explore our spiritual anatomy, our energetic anatomy, our spiritual anatomy. And then if somebody does, we call them crazy or deluded or egotistical or outrageous. Like, how dare they suggest that we could achieve those things that our gods only can do? It's very, very like, I get it. We've been implanted with that kind of programming culturally around the world for generations, but that's a generational block. That's a block that's imprisoning humanity and keeping us from being able to explore and discover our capabilities for fear of going over to Satan. Oh my God, it's so intense. It's so intense to even talk about it because, I was born into a fundamentalist Christian family who are all still practicing that. So I was I was put through extreme programming. And I remember when I first started listening to, there was a feeling inside me when I was a kid that I was like, this is off. This doesn't ring true for me in my body. Like, I'm pointing to my solar plexus, like this line along my solar plexus. There's like a physical feeling there that I was like, this isn't true. There's something really off about this. This isn't correct. This is going against my intuition, right? And intuition can be hard to even say, what is it? Because sometimes there's just like so many thoughts in your head, and you don't want to mistake thoughts in your head that are not correct for intuition. It's like a process even getting in touch with that. But I remember being afraid to read a book that wasn't from the Christian fundamentalist point of view, because they had taught me that if I even opened up my mind to consider other ideas, that was allowing Satan to come into my mind and demons to enter my mind and to take over me. How terrifying. I was terrified. I was programmed to be terrified as a kid of demons and Satan. And, people who are born into families that are very scientific and have rejected religion, they have their own programming that's like, they're terrified of, exploring any ideas or considering any ideas that aren't scientific, because that could open them up to insanity, mental illness, delusion, right? So it's deep. It's deep. All you have to do is be aware of what fear feels like. Allow yourself, have a willingness to consider your assumptions. Have a willingness to examine assumptions and question assumptions. And if you're going towards something and it's destabilizing you too much, you just back away from it. If by questioning some programs that are running in your mind, it starts destabilizing your psyche, what do? Well, you know what worked for me? Zen. Chop wood, carry water. Anytime you feel a little bit destabilized and you're like, okay, that's too much. Like, I'm pushing too much. I'm pushing too much against the constructs in my mind that keep me feeling stable, and I don't want to feel destabilized. I don't want to feel crazy. I don't want to feel off center. Okay. Set it down for today and go chop wood, carry water. Do your habit tracker. Go do something very grounding. Go, do things that are very 3D matrix things, and do it for a couple of days until you feel solid and secure again. You can always pick things up where you left off, There's no sin in like going and having a burger from McDonald's and walking around and being in the matrix and just stabilizing yourself if you feel a little off kilter, right? You know, use the 3D to stabilize you as you explore other dimensions of reality. You can always come back to the basic ground that you were born into, the basic reality that was handed to you. You can always come back to it to stabilize yourself if you need to feel more stable. And then as you open up and explore other places and they're really foreign to you and it's different feelings in your body, different perceptions coming through, your brain feels a little different, your mind state feels a little different, your emotional state feels a little different. If it starts feeling too scary because it's too foreign, just set it aside and come back to Zen, chop wood, carry water, go to McDonald's, have a Big Mac meal, go for a walk in nature. Set all that aside, go interact with your dog, go have lunch with friends. Come back to 3D. Just come back to 3D. Remind yourself you're in control of your own process and you can be stable through it. You can be stable through it. You don't have to push yourself so hard that you go off the rails. You don't have to push yourself so hard that things inside your mind break. You don't have to push yourself so that you go to some point that you can't come back from. I don't recommend using plant medicine. I don't recommend ayahuasca trips to fucking Brazil and Costa Rica and all this shit. You know, just if you want to take a high risk path to destabilizing yourself and not being able to come back from it, that would be it. Because some of those substances that you take, chemical substances you take, can alter your brain that can't be changed. So I don't recommend that path. I personally did everything through meditation. I used meditation, I used yoga, I used Qigong, I used Chinese medicine and acupuncture and having energy work done on me that opened different gates in my body through people who were a bit above me. You know, there's always people that are above you. You don't. And then just use discernment as to what their energy is like. Like, do you trust them? Do you feel safe around them? If you don't go there. You don't want to be around people who are vampiring your energy, right? But there's always going to be people who have gone a little farther than you have, who've been through the place that you're at now, and you can go to those people for help and they will help you get through the process. And we're all here like as part of like one giant flower kind of unfolding. We're all at different places on the process. We're all on this enlightenment journey, whether we're going slow or fast. Do it safely. Respect yourself. Respect your safety. Like, cultivate safety for yourself. Like, value yourself so much that you don't go on some ayahuasca journey and take a bunch of medicine you didn't make yourself and you don't know what's in it. That is a risk to your sanity. I'm not saying I haven't done any of those things, because I tried some of that stuff. Like, usually I tried things like that like once, experienced what that looked like and where that, got a sense of like where that would take me or what I would do with that. And ultimately I was like, I'm not doing the plant medicine road. And I stopped and I went the grounded path, like martial arts, which does a lot of kung fu, because you need to be in your body when you start opening up to higher levels of energy, because it can make you feel so disoriented and so destabilized, right? You got to have physical practices. So weightlifting, bring a lot of earth energy in. Weightlifting, kung fu. Oh my God, they made us do so many squats. I've never done so many squats in my life. Like, I remember one time in China being like going to the teacher that was in charge of the lessons for that, the few days that was in control of my class while I was there, and saying to him, like, I'm really exhausted. Like, I feel like I'm on the verge of getting some injuries and stuff. Like, I don't feel like I can continue to push myself. Like, I need a bit of rest. And his rest was like, okay, instead of doing the drills, like, go over there and do 50 squat jumps or whatever. Yeah, that's rest. Okay. Anyways, my point is physical grounds you. Zen grounds you. Chop wood, carry water grounds you. And it gives you this peaceful place to rest in when you're doing work and it's getting kind of too out there. Anyways, I could talk about this for days, so let's stop. I need to rest. I've been making a lot of content and I need to rest. So I'm going to leave you here. And yeah, I don't know why. There was like a tangent I needed to talk about. It's not really the main thrust of my channel. My channel is not about leading people through the Enlightenment experience. I'm just putting that out there in case maybe somebody needed to hear it. Okay. I need some self-care. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.